Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is now just 2 days away from its official release by writer and director J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio, as well as creator George Lucas. This is Mike Zeroh. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future content. Now, just yesterday was the premiere of The Rise of Skywalker. A lot of the critics were able to talk about the movie and express their feelings, their reactions, if you will, about The Rise of Skywalker. There's a lot of good and bad out there. In fact, we have a big divide between fans about what they thought about The Rise of Skywalker after going ahead and seeing this movie at the official premiere. So there are a lot of good and bad reactions out there. And the bad reactions we will be going over, as well as the good reactions for The Rise of Skywalker. But the thing is about this is that keep in mind that with The Last Jedi, there was more good than bad, whereas with this, it seems like it's split right down the middle, where there's a lot of good to the side and a lot of bad to the other side. So I want to go over some of the reactions, and I really want to react to some of the reactions here for The Rise of Skywalker and how it does match directly up with how we've been talking about how The Rise of Skywalker went through 30% of the movie being reshot, and how a lot of segments were deleted from the film and cut down and replaced with new scenes. So let's get right into this. Now, I'm sure that you all know John Campea himself, right? So John Campea had this to say on Twitter, which is very unlike him. Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker reaction. There are a few big great moments, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to love this movie. Unfortunately, I'm just not one of them. Hopefully I'll like it a little bit more after I see it again tomorrow. Moving on to Scott Mendelson. This is somebody who absolutely loved The Last Jedi. So he states, at worst, I expected The Rise of Skywalker to be a well-made movie that I didn't like or whose story choices I disagreed with. I was not expecting a genuinely bad movie with video game plotting, thin characters, weak action, and endless exposition of no consequence. Heartbreaking. Now, about that, alright, this also falls directly in line with how J.J. Abrams really made this movie quite complex because of how rushed it really was, which the other critics do in fact talk about. And let me say, I mean, everything that we have been hearing, the leaks that we've been hearing about The Rise of Skywalker, a lot of the choices really do break my heart, as Scott says there. You know, it is heartbreaking. Again, this is a man, alright, Scott Mendelson, who absolutely loved The Last Jedi, as far as I know. And there's a lot of people that are quite surprised that Scott, of all people, would actually say this about The Rise of Skywalker coming right out of the movie. So, up to the next one here, I want to talk about what Matthew Ball had to say. The seams from Disney Star Wars director changes, rushed production schedules, etc. are still present in The Rise of Skywalker, but most fun, gorgeous, rewarding of the films. Not sure Palpatine/Empire needed a third trilogy, but what matters is conclusion of Rey-Kylo. It delivers. Chris Taylor says, it's a lot. It's like 9 movies of plot in one. Going to take me about 9 days to process. Mike Ryan says, Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is certainly the most convoluted Star Wars there is. A lot I liked, but the first half gets so bogged down with exposition and new plot and doodads and beacons and transmitters. It feels like it should have been 3 movies on its own. Yikes. So this is exactly what a lot of you guys have been expressing in the comments on my videos, is that a lot of you out there felt that this movie really needed to be divided up into 2 parts or into its own trilogy based on what they are really exploring. And obviously this is a lot of patchwork to what Rian Johnson messed up in The Last Jedi. There is no denying that J.J. Abrams went into full patchwork mode for Episode 9. I want to go into some of the other reactions here that are a mixture of good and bad, alright? So, one person goes on to say, Umberto Gonzalez, one word, epic, a satisfying, crowd-pleasing adventure, and a fitting end to the saga. My favorite of the 3. Can't wait to see it again. Now, in my opinion, The Last Jedi hit rock bottom. There really is nowhere to go but up. So I think that it's pretty obvious that, yes, it's going to be better than The Force Awakens because of the reveals. And yes, it's going to be better than The Last Jedi because of how far it really went down. Christian Harloff says, a lot to take in with The Rise of Skywalker. It is the big adventure, lightsaber adventure I hoped for. A few things I still wonder if it was necessary, but it was a very satisfying end to this new trilogy. Rob Keys says, just stepped out of The Rise of Skywalker. It's an immensely satisfying and massive end to the saga. It somehow addresses issues, problematic characters, and most unanswered questions. So moving on through... there's other ones that I do want to go over here. Let's go into what Eric Eisenberg had to say. There is good in Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, but there is more that is disappointing. Okay, so that's what Eric had to say. He goes on to state, there are a number of choices that just don't track, fan service that doesn't work, and ignored details that are missed. I'm bummed. So that's what Eric Eisenberg had to say. The Brandalorian... I kind of like that name, is good. It's a big and full of surprises, and in the words of Luke Skywalker, this is not going to go the way you think. Gregory Elwood says, the best thing I can say about The Rise of Skywalker is that Daisy Ridley gives her best performance, and for hardcore fans, you get what you want. Wish J.J. Abrams had another year to work on it. Not a good sign there. So, like I say, guys, I mean, those are just a handful of the reactions that I wanted to tap into. Obviously, there's a mixture of good and bad here. The thing about this, though, is that with The Last Jedi, it was never split or divided like this, where you had people who loved The Force Awakens that were actually, you know, hating on The Last Jedi. We didn't really have that scenario a couple of years ago. And now you have more people that are expressing, you know, how they dislike the movie, problems about the film, how it's convoluted, how it should have been three movies separated, and how it acts as if it's three movies in one, and how not only that, a lot of choices that were made by J.J. Abrams just don't go well. And there's a lot more reactions that just really aren't, you know, really reaching out to fans a lot out there that are on negative sense. But there's a lot of positive and negative with this movie. Again, like I say, the leaks that we've been talking about, a lot of fans have a lot of problems with that. And of course, you know, it depends on whether or not you're a new fan, a casual fan, a hardcore fan. Things are going to really vary on reactions based on exactly how you see Star Wars. That's a given. Everybody's different. I'm just pretty surprised that we had Scott Mendelson express, you know, the feelings that he, poured out on Twitter, as well as John Campea, and even what, you know, Matthew Ball had to say about this movie, of how, you know, the entire sequence of Palpatine and Empire didn't really need a third trilogy, and how Chris Taylor says it's like 9 movies of a plot in one, which really spells out like it's convoluted quite a bit. And what Mike Ryan had to say of how it's the most convoluted Star Wars. You know, there's a lot of bad here as well, so just keep an eye open for that. Twitter doesn't really seem to push out the negatives, more so the positives. So if you look at a balance here, it is quite a divide for The Rise of Skywalker. It looks like that there's going to be a divide similar to that of The Rise of Skywalker based on specific decisions that were made. A lot of the leaks that are out there, a lot of fans do not like them, and that seems to be the case. They are all pretty much true at this point from what we have been talking about, because a lot of things are lining up with some of the other leaks that we've been talking about as well. So, anyways, guys, with that being said, that's my reaction to the reactions of The Rise of Skywalker. Like I say, I mean, when we look at Episode 9, it really seems like it was going to be a convoluted Star Wars movie. Let's not forget that this movie originally was 4 hours and change before it was cut down, and prior to that, they went through a lot of reshoots and rewrites, and last minute, you know, during the month of November, they tried to patch it all together and rework it into one piece. And that could very well explain as to why some of the reactions out there state that you can see the seams of changing directors and how parts of the script remained intact from Colin Trevorrow. So anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
Gun and to move.